Right, today is just absolutely buzzing. I mean, the atmosphere is so different than everything that we have seen all year. I mean, there haven't been this many people, this many fans around an arena for so long to watch a game here in person. Derek, I know you've been here since this morning, got a chance to go inside. What was it like inside? Because outside, it's pretty exciting, as you can see.
It was pretty surreal. Now, we were in Columbus last weekend, and I know there were a decent amount of family members and parents in there, and it was nice to kind of have an atmosphere of some fans, some cheering, and some kind of reaction to what's going on the floor. But I know this past game with Purdue, Ohio State, a large Purdue contingent in there, that thing was roaring, and it was really cool just to be around the fans, and it felt kind of normal. It was fun. This is what this was supposed to be about here, Big Ten tournament, just a mixing of different fan bases and the excitement that's in the building. So excited to see how many Illini fans turn out. I'm sure there'll be quite a few here tonight, but it's an exciting time to finally see the fans back. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, I know. We miss them. And I think this is the atmosphere that this team deserves. I mean, you think this is the best Illinois team that we have seen in decades, and there was no one in the State Farm Center to watch besides us and a couple people like the paramedics that were in there. So for there to actually be fans here in person, it is incredible. Think about where we were just a year ago today when everything got canceled, just the rain pouring down in Indy last March, and here we are a year later. Of course, a lot has changed as far as COVID tests, all those protocols, but 1 year later, we're here standing at the Big Ten tournament as Illinois looks for their first Big Ten tournament title since 2005. Bret, we're excited to head inside a little later on and get ready for this one. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's because we've gone so long without this that it just feels weird. Me and our other sports reporter, Andy Olson, were talking last night because we were watching videos of games that were happening, this time last year, just right before everything got canceled. And I couldn't believe how many people were in the building. And I'm kind of getting a similar sense with that today. It's just unbelievable. I haven't been around this many people in so long. So it's surreal, and I think it's really a full circle moment, Derek, for this team. I don't know if you feel the same way, that they are kind of finishing what they started in Indy and then some, because maybe they were on the fringe of the NCAA tournament last year, but now they're going for a Big Ten tournament title and so much more.
Oh, absolutely. And how much that moment against Iowa last year in the regular season finale is ingrained in all of our memories as far as just the atmosphere in that building and what that team was progressing towards as they were going into postseason play. And looking back at it a year down the road, Illinois is in a better position. There's no doubt about it. They're right now sitting as a number one seed in the NCAA tournament, barring something unforeseen. And last year we thought that team could go on a run. I'm not taking anything away from that team. That was very talented and could have been pretty dangerous, but this team seems built for the Final Four, built for potentially a national championship.
Oh, we got the Fighting Illini bus. Andy Olson is going to try and turn it around and see if we can. Oh, we just missed it. It looks like the team is just arriving. I don't know if you guys can see just the blue top of the bus that just came around the corner with the police escort and all. Man, that kind of gave me goosebumps a little bit. I mean, this is exciting. The team is arriving, making their debut in the Big Ten tournament and looking to get past the quarterfinals, which they haven't been able to do yet with Brad Underwood as head coach.
Yeah, big opportunity, playing for a lot. And I do think that out of Illinois and Michigan, whoever has a better finish this weekend will take that number 3 1 seed. I know that sounds kind of funny to say, but taking the third 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, seems like both of those are solidified on the 1 seed line. But yeah, just continuing to stack those wins. Illinois leads the country with 10 quad 1 wins currently. Another opportunity today to gain another one. But just all that's on the table. You see on the other side of the stadium, it says the Final Four, the run to the Final Four ends here. And just kind of feeling that moment and knowing that it's all going to go down here in Indianapolis, all here in the state of Indiana, and this is where it starts. Potentially a special run for this Illini team, and I know that's what this fan base is fully expecting.
Yeah, and the team is not going to leave Indianapolis or the state of Indiana until they lose in the NCAA tournament. So they're hoping to make it a long stay here in Indy. Of course, if they lose here today, it's going to be a lot of mulling over, a lot of film, I can imagine, in the hotel room for the next couple of days. But the team is hoping to make it to Sunday, but they really can't look too far ahead, Bret, because they have Rutgers coming up tonight.
Hello, I'm here now. The sound has been fixed. That was on me.
Oh.
So hello for everyone. Marlee and Derek, you guys were good. It was on me. Now everyone gets to hear my voice. They want to hear from you first and foremost, but I'd like to have a conversation here, so to speak. So thanks to everyone for hanging on there as we continue here on the Your Illini Nation pregame show. And thanks to everyone commenting as well. Derek and Marlee can certainly answer some questions here as we move along. We'll be on here for about the next 20-25 minutes in Indy as the Illini are looking to make a deep run, like they mentioned here, not only this weekend, but in March. And it's interesting when you start to think about their journey. They leave yesterday from Champaign to some fanfare. It was great to see the band out there, the cheerleaders, some supporters. They didn't want to let the word out too much because they didn't want a lot of people there. This team has been isolated so much for the last 3 to 4 months, really since August. Goes deeper than that, since they got back to campus. But they leave and there's some sense of normalcy. They get to Indianapolis, they're bunkered in their hotel, and they will change hotels before the NCAA tournament starts next week. But they're essentially living out of this hotel room. There's not going to be a lot of opportunity for the team, for the coaches to get out, get some fresh air. I don't know if I'm really going to sign up to live in a hotel for 25 straight days. And even with the one change in hotel rooms, that's going to be it. There's not a lot of outside interaction at all. They took Pelotons. They took tons of workout equipment to be in this big room that they have there, like a big meeting room in a hotel. And so this dynamic is so unique that this team is going over there with one goal in mind, and that's to make it to the Final Four and play for a national championship and ultimately win it. But getting to the Final Four would be a huge accomplishment for this program, considering where it's at. They have not played in the NCAA tournament since 2003. They would have, or 2013 rather. It hasn't been that long. They would have made it last year, but of course everything was canceled. All right, let's head back out to Indianapolis with Derek and Marlee. And as we break down this Rutgers game, guys, to me, there's something about tonight's matchup that concerns me a little bit. I think it's going to be closer than maybe most people think. How do you guys break down the matchup tonight?
Right, well, I remember vividly after their loss to Rutgers on the road, in the post-game press conference, Brad Underwood said, "We got taken out behind the woodshed and we got whooped," which is exactly what happened there on the road. And I think there's a little bit of that chip on their shoulder as they head into this matchup against a team that they couldn't beat on the road in the regular season. And of course, I mean, Illinois has grown so much since then. I think at that point in the season, you know, it was kind of just a little bit of the slump that they hit, the freshmen maybe just trying to come into their own a little bit. And this is a much improved Illinois team, but I think this is a very much improved Rutgers team as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. When you look at Illinois and giving up 91 points on the road in that game, this defense is far and away much more improved at this stage of the season than they were back then. Jacob Grandison only played 3 minutes off the bench. Clearly he's had a breakthrough and provides such a value to this team. I think it's a big spot for him to step up today along with DeMonte Williams, because you look on the other side, Ron Harper Jr. was playing like a Big Ten Player of the Year candidate for first month or so of the season, and really lit up the Illini with 28 points and 9 rebounds. He's a tough matchup. 6'6", big-bodied forward, plays the 4, can really shoot the 3, and that's one that I agree with you, Bret. On paper, this is a team that has some answers for what Illinois really likes to do inside with Kofi. I know that's always a focal point as far as his physicality and his size, but Miles Johnson on the other side is as big as they come in the Big Ten in terms of getting out on the glass and challenging shots inside. Rutgers can get up and down and run with Illinois as far as getting out on the fast break. And also there's always just that thought of the team that played the day before, riding that momentum off a win and coming in and playing a team in Illinois that might be cold or just trying to get accustomed to playing in a new environment, especially playing in a football stadium. So I'm with you. I feel a little bit of an angst as far as on Illinois' side, and Rutgers, I think they match up fairly well with Illinois, and they definitely bring that toughness and physicality that Brad and Illinois definitely embody as well.
And this was a top 25 team at the point when Illinois had played them, and I think that's still, there's a lot to be said about that they were still, a good team that had a lot of hype coming into the season. And I think we also need to consider, Derek, is that they're coming off a really good win against a good Indiana team. They ended that game on a 4-2 run. I think the momentum kind of favors Rutgers a little bit here.
Yeah, for sure. Rutgers defensively was really impressive late in that game. Indiana didn't make a basket the last 9.5 minutes, and that says a lot about Rutgers and just their ability to rebound and contest shots. And again, that presence inside. We know Trace Jackson-Davis is a very talented big man. For them to keep him off the board in the closing moments of that game is pretty impressive. And I agree, Rutgers being a 7 seed in this tournament, they're much more talented than what that seed indicates. They were number 11 in the country after beating Illinois when the new rankings came out. So this team has a lot of potential. They hit a tough skid there in the middle of Big Ten play, but if they are able to put it all together, I'm sure they're hoping that it's here in Indy as they get moving towards the NCAA tournament as well. Another team that's about to end a long drought in the big dance, but they're going to be tough, and they have the potential to really challenge Illinois today.
And Illinois coming off 2 big wins on the road to Michigan and Ohio State. Brett, I think that says a lot as we send it back to you in the studio for a little bit, but I think maybe we have to think about that Michigan State loss was really not too long ago, and while maybe they ended the season here with a little bit of momentum and kind of riding a hot streak, that it shows just how easily maybe this team could be taken down.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said, like you guys mentioned. Rutgers gets in the stadium yesterday, kind of gets the feel. This isn't Bankers Life where it's a basketball venue. They're at Lucas Oil Stadium where the Colts play. And it's a big arena. It's a big venue. It's a stadium. And I think that is different for shooters, especially just trying to get your bearings. We saw the Illini coming to the stadium just a couple of minutes ago here as the Your Illini Nation pregame show continues. But that's the first time they've been in the stadium. Rutgers already has its bearings a little bit. And when we take a look back at this matchup, and it feels like eternity ago, at least to me. I don't know how it does for you guys, but it was 5 days before Christmas, December 20th. Ayo Dosunmu had 22, Trent with 19, Kofi with 17, DeMonte with 12, and Georgie had 11. But Ron Harper went off for 28 points, Jacob Young with 24. Miles Johnson only had 9 points. But Derek, as you kind of take a look back at that game, I'm sure you broke it down on Illini Inquirer, what do you remember most about that game and maybe something Illinois, even though it's been that long ago, can take away coming into this matchup?
Yeah, you mentioned it there with Jacob Young, a guy that is just as quick as they come in college basketball off the dribble. And Trent Frazier is very, very deserving of being an all Big Ten defender, but Young got the best of him in that game. I know that Trent will relish the opportunity to have a bounce back and to get another shot at him, but that's where it really starts with Rutgers. When Young is able to break things down off the dribble, break down the defense, kick it out to Harper or get to the rim, that's when Rutgers can be tough to stop. And also in transition, they really like to get up and down when they have the opportunity to. So that's one that I really look for, and Young led Rutgers throughout the Big Ten season in scoring. So he's a guy that maybe you point to Harper first or a Geo Baker, who is an all Big Ten guy. But Young really makes them go. And you mentioned Miles Johnson. He had 9 points in that game, 13 rebounds as well. And when he has double-digit rebounds on this season, he's done it 11 times. Rutgers is 9-2 in those games. So when he's able to be an impact performer on the glass, and he really changed it because they started the freshman in Cliff Omarui. Kofi was able to get after him earlier in that game, but when Miles was in there, they did a much better job making things tough on Kofi, and I really am going to watch that matchup today. Miles will get to start against Kofi in this one.
And I think, too, when we look at it from Illinois' side, that was a point where Ayo Dosunmu was still kind of dominating everything, and I think right now we have there's a little bit more balance that we are seeing with this team. I mean, Andre Curbelo has been stepping up big time. Trent Frazier in a big way against Michigan. So I think maybe Illinois has figured it out a little bit since that Rutgers game.
I think that's a great point. When you think about Ayo had 22 in that game, it took him 20 shots to do so. Just the load that was on his shoulders early in that season to really, it was Ayo or Kofi, and you didn't know night to night what you're getting out of the rest of the supporting cast. But here recently, I know down the stretch, really the last month of the season, the way Trent Frazier was shooting the ball, like you said, Andre Curbelo being able to play make, get into the lane, both scoring for himself and setting up others, just having some moments for Georgie or Jacob Grandison, DeMonte hitting threes. You feel really good about the depth and the collective effort offensively and really at both sides of the ball, and that's why Illinois has won 11 of their last 12 and is trending in such a great direction right now. And they hope that carries over into this tournament. If they do so, they'll be a really tough out.
And Georgie actually plays historically well against Rutgers. I mean, we go back to his freshman year when he broke the scoring record against Rutgers. But it's crazy how far we have come since then. And here, as Illinois has a real legitimate chance, I think, Derek, to compete for this Big Ten tournament title.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they're expecting. I know they come in feeling slighted, and that was the storyline of the week about Illinois, Michigan, and as far as the Illini making their case for co-champions. This is a great opportunity to come out and say, hey, you believe you're the best team in the Big Ten? Go prove it. And they have that opportunity. They're as hot as anybody in the country right now, maybe save for Gonzaga, who hasn't lost yet. But outside of that, Illinois trending in a great direction, feeling really good about themselves, really confident. And I like it. As far as Illinois, you do wonder at times, we talked throughout the season, as far as their motivation, and there's times where they play down to the competition. Feeling slighted is a good spot for them. They're going to be motivated and come out, and when they have a chip on their shoulder, as Brad mentioned earlier this week, that's when they're at their best.
Yeah, because this team has kind of, I don't want to say going through an identity crisis a little bit, but they went from being the underdogs, and they kind of thrived in those situations. I mean, they've just had kind of a checklist year, taking just things that haven't been done in 10, 20 years, whatever, you name it. And those were positions where they were kind of pinned as the underdog. I mean, we go back to last season, beating Wisconsin at the Kohl Center. That's just one that pops into mind for me. That big upset in Ann Arbor when Ayo Dosunmu hit the buzzer beater. And I think heading into this tournament, yes, they're one of the top seeds, but I kind of do feel like they're underdogs a little bit because of what you just mentioned, Derek, of them kind of getting cheated out. I don't want to say that essentially of a Big Ten title, but that's kind of what Illinois fans want to say. But Brett, I think a lot is riding on this tournament, and this is a situation I think that Illinois is going to thrive in.
I thought it was really interesting, you guys talking about Illinois trying to be the hunter instead of the hunted, and we've heard that all season long. And look, if they haven't figured that out by now, they're not going to figure it out. It's way too late. But I do find it really interesting when I asked Brad Underwood earlier this week how he motivates his players, because that's ultimately on a coach, right? And Marlee, you're the only college athlete out of all of us here between Derek, me, and Andy. So you can give the best perspective on this, okay? But that's what a coach is there for, right? To find ways to motivate his team or her team. And I feel like overall, Brad's done a really nice job of knowing when to speak up, how to speak up to his team, whether that's Ayo saying Luke is the best player in the country, and then ultimately Ayo takes that a little bit personal, as the Jordan meme says, right? Hey, I took that personal. I think whether it's the quote-unquote slight on Juwan Howard and Michigan for not playing their schedule, whatever it may be, I just feel like overall, and certainly I don't think other fan bases have maybe liked Bret Underwood for that, but I feel like he's known really well when to say something and how to say something. How do you guys kind of break that all down?
Yeah, I think I've been loving the post-game locker room little celebrations that they have. It's great to see a coach get that excited. And we know Bret Underwood, we know he's animated as it is and kind of a yeller. He almost just looks kind of mean. You know, if you didn't know the guy, I mean, we talk to him every day in the press conferences, and we know, I mean, he's a nice guy. He's a great guy. But when you watch him on the court, it's almost kind of scary. Like, I don't know if I would ever want to be yelled at the way that he yells at his guys. But I think when he's in that locker room and celebrating with the guys, he mentioned, like, wins are hard to get. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, Gonzaga is undefeated. I mean, how does that even happen? But to see him celebrate with the team, I think the players really enjoy it, and I've enjoyed kind of watching it too.
Oh, absolutely. And as he said, that he doesn't want to ever get in a position where you're taking winning for granted. And no matter how much you've done it, I think that's a really exciting thing for this team, to have those moments, to strive for those moments after the game where they can really let loose and have it be fun, because this has been a grind of a season. Every season really is, but as far as just the COVID testing and everything that goes into it, not seeing your families, you got to make it fun, and you got to keep the guys keeping it light, and it just shows you the relationship they have with Brad. But Brad, I think you make a good point as far as Brad trying to find different ways to motivate them. As he said, we got to win 6 in a row because that's what it takes in the NCAA tournament. And in this sense, yeah, they're stacking a slight. They feel disrespected, and whether that is necessarily how everyone feels about them, it doesn't really matter as long as this team believes that and buys into that. If it helps them, then great for them, and that's all that really matters in the end.
Right, and Bret Underwood, he's going to give us the coach speak every time. I remember, you know, after the Ohio State game, there were reporters asking, hey, you know what, do you guys feel like you should be, you know, co-Big Ten champions? He's like, listen, we won the most games. We played all 20 of ours. And, you know, he kind of sat back, whatever. The players, of course, you know, Trent Frazier holding up the sign, Big Ten champion. So definitely, I don't know. It's interesting, this whole situation. I know the fans are, you know, given in their own little war here on Twitter. But I think as much as Bret Underwood, you know, doesn't want to say it to us, I think, you know, he does believe that this team is Big Ten champions. And I kind of want to talk about, too, the Josh Whitman open letter that he wrote, that he released, that he was fighting for this team to get a share of that Big Ten championship. And he said, you know, he wanted to clarify, listen, I don't want to take anything away from Michigan. I think we can all agree that they had a great season this year, but just maybe this situation could have been avoided, or maybe the Big Ten could have done something a little better to maybe make it a little more fair, if you will. I don't know.
Yeah, as far as having some adaptability, I certainly understand it. When you have just the circumstances of unbalanced scheduling and being adaptable, we saw it in football, where originally the rule was you got to play 6 games to get to the Big Ten championship game. Oh, wait, no, you don't. Ohio State can play. So, look, I understand Illinois' argument. As far as the standings go, if we're doing the standings math, they were up a half game on Michigan at the very end, and they beat Michigan by 23 points on their home court. So I understand why they have that argument and feel like they could have been co-champions, which isn't taking anything away from Michigan. They can still both put up that banner. Of course, it's not going to happen. Josh Whitman wanted his team to know, I think, first and foremost, that he has their backs, and that was important. And also to just provide some transparency for the fan base that, hey, I'm fighting for these guys, and I'm doing all I can in terms of talking to the league office, and ultimately it wasn't going to happen. But at the very end, if all it was a rallying cry to fire this team up even more, as if they needed any more motivation going into March, then that's great for Illinois. But I think they have a lot of opportunity to define their season more than just Big Ten regular season champs or not. There's still a ton to play for, and that's ultimately what matters most.
I totally agree, and, you know, much bigger things, I think, to play for. At the end of the day, do you want a national championship, or do you want a Big Ten regular season title? And I think this team, Bret, they really have their eyes on the grand prize right now.
It's interesting, though, this weekend, and as you guys mentioned that with what they're playing for, because I think we can all pretty confidently say they're going to be a number 1 seed. I mean, you don't lead the country in quad 1 wins without, you know, being a number 1 seed. I just don't think, even if they were to lose today, Maybe it gets iffy there on Selection Sunday. You can watch it right here on WCIA 3 Sunday at 5. But I feel pretty good that they're going to be a #1 seed. That winning at Ohio State did that. So what are they playing for here? Is there any motivation, quote unquote? I mean, other than the Big Ten title, obviously, if their seed line's not going to be improved. Derek and Marlee, what's the difference between that 3 overall seed and 4, or is there any?
I think I'm just kind of looking at this as the perspective of an athlete. I mean, yes, like your seating isn't on the line, but you still don't want to walk in there and, like, I don't think they're going to try to lose by any means. I think they're still going to be motivated, and I think this team still has a lot to prove. Yes, they've kind of climbed to the national stage, and they're kind of a little bit in the national conversation. I don't think maybe they've gotten as much attention as they deserved, as, you know, the Gonzagas, as Baylor's, and I think to make a big statement and make some noise here at the Big Ten tournament, I think it's just as important as they head into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, a trophy's on the line. There's an opportunity to go snatch a trophy, put it in your trophy case to the Illini Basketball Hall of Fame back home in Champaign, and a banner comes along with that. But I agree with you, Brett, as far as the difference between the third #1 and the fourth #1, there's not a big difference there. There's not enough to really incentivize that if that's all you're really leaning on. And I know it's easy from the outside to sit there and say, hey, if you lost today, that's just 2 extra more days of rest and 2 less games you got to play, and you can gear up for the NCAA tournament. But from a competitive standpoint and a mindset, you want to keep this momentum going, and it took so long for this team to really figure out how to be consistent, how to bring in every game. And now that they have that working for them, they definitely don't want to do anything to go away from that. But it's about pride. It's about a team that, again, has a feeling that they were disrespected and that they feel like they're the best team in the Big Ten, and this is their chance to go show it.
And this is going to be Ayo Dosunmu's last Big Ten tournament, and you better believe I think this guy is going to come out and put it all on the line, Brett, because this is a big reason why he came back for this, you know, unfinished business, delaying his NBA dreams to come back and win a Big Ten tournament title with this team and get to play on this stage, because him and the rest of the team, they missed out on it last year. Brett?
All right, we've got about 5 minutes left here, less than 5. Time for some predictions, and not only about this game. We'll have another pregame show tomorrow if the Illini win, of course. But with what you've seen so far in this tournament, what do you think about tonight? I want a prediction from both of you, and then also for the rest of the tournament going forward, because we've essentially seen chalk here so far. We've got another game tonight, Iowa and Wisconsin, following Illinois and Rutgers. But how have you seen things shake out so far, and what do you think going forward?
Yeah, I think, as we mentioned kind of at the beginning of the pregame show, it's going to be a closer game than I think many expect. Many might think Illinois is going to come in and waltz in and get the easy win, but I'm going to think it's going to be pretty close. It might be a high-scoring game. I see this being maybe like 75-71. Illinois, I think they'll come out and pull away with the win. As far as heading into the tournament, I know a lot of Illinois fans are excited to get another Illinois-Iowa matchup, which, you know, probably the last time that'll happen this season. You know, they want to see the Io Luka Garza battle go head-to-head and kind of figure out some stuff maybe for National Player of the Year. I think they're playing for that as well. I mean, you talked about, you know, what are they playing for? I think Io here trying to make a case in that conversation. And then, of course, in the championship, I know everyone wants it to be Illinois, Michigan, because they want to fight for that title. But I almost would like to see it go a different way than how it's predicted, because right now it's pretty much gone that way.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as tonight, I like Illinois in a close one. I think that Rutgers comes out and does have early momentum. I think they throw a couple of punches Illinois' way early. Just hard to bet against Illinois in those closing moments with what Iowa continues to show. I have Illinois 72-68, although I just have that feeling that this could be a tricky one for Illinois. Maybe even the trickier one between this and the next round, whether that's Iowa or whether that's Wisconsin. I do ultimately think Iowa gets it done, even without Wieskamp. So we do get that Io versus Luka versus Kofi down low, which Let's just go 48 hours of rivalry after this. After tonight, we get Illinois-Iowa, then Illinois-Michigan. I'm all for that for selfish purposes, but I predicted Illinois-Ohio State going into this as the final. Really looking back, since 2007, there hasn't been a 1 versus 2 seed in this Big Ten tournament. There's usually an upset somewhere. I picked the Buckeyes to make that happen, but I will not complain if it's Illinois and Michigan for all the storylines.
Yeah, I feel like no matter what, like it's never going to be a perfect bracket. I was talking to Andy earlier, and I said, in the NCAA tournament, I feel like the number 1 seed never usually wins. An upset happens. So we'll see how it all pans out. Certainly an exciting one we have to look forward to tonight. Brett, as we get ready to head inside Lucas Oil Stadium for this one.
All right, Marlee, Andy, and Derek. Andy manning the camera today. We'll have so much more coming up from you on the 5 o'clock news, as well as 6 o'clock at 10 o'clock. And Derek's got all the coverage on Illini-Inquirer.com. They are both predicting an Illinois win. I am as well. I am saying Illinois 79 and Rutgers 73. I think it's going to be a pretty close game throughout, and the Illini do come out and win it at the end. We'll see how it all plays out. The game's on Big Ten Network at 5:30, so they've got about a little more than an hour here before tip-off at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. For Marlee, Derek, and Andy, I'm Brett. Thanks so much for watching the Your Illini Nation pregame show. We will continue to do these for every game this season, the rest of the way, both in the Big Ten tournament and also in the NCAA tournament as well. Should be fun. We'll be on about a little more than an hour and a half before each game to break it all down for you live from Indianapolis or any of the other venues, whether that's in Bloomington or West Lafayette for the NCAA tournament. All right, we'll hope to see you here tomorrow about 1:15 live from the same location if Illinois can go out and beat Rutgers this afternoon game at 5:30. Thanks so much for watching.